Flying with the 5th Marines by Samuel S. Originally published 12/31/2010. Recorded for audio 11/4/2013. Flying with the 5th Marines. It was the end of 2010, and I took the red-eye to Ohio for Christmas and sat next to Zach, an assault man in the 5th Marines, the outfit of World War II Medal of Honor recipient John Basilone. Basilone received the Medal of Honor for actions on Guadalcanal, and later received the Navy Cross for actions and for dying on Iwo Jima. For this, Basilone's memory is godlike among the 5th Marines. The lubricant they use to keep their weapons functioning is called Basilone's jizz. An assault man is the Marine who puts the detonation cord on the doors of each house in a house-to-house search scenario, which occurred constantly in Afghanistan at that time. The assault man puts the det cord on the door and blows the door, and then everybody runs in. Zach told me the most scared he's ever been was the first time he breached. He told me that 80% of all Marine casualties occur in that small space, a tiny box just on the other side of the doorway. Zach had just finished a 7-month tour in Afghanistan with 10 days off for Christmas before a second 7-month deployment. This was 10 days earlier. He was dressed in civvies, but his hair was high and tight. Marines don't wear their utilities on leave, he said, referring to the digital MARPAT camouflage clothing they wear in battle. When he was boarding the plane, Zach had chided an Air Force airman who was wearing his digital ABUs. I told Zach I had heard that the Air Force's new digital tiger stripe camouflage was useless as a disruptive pattern, that it was more of a recruiting tool, like the Transformers movies. Zach agreed, and we speculated that's why USAF personnel wear them on domestic flights. Early in the flight, the woman in front of me turned around and asked me not to talk so loud, that she wanted to sleep. I guess the frequency of my voice as I asked Zach more questions cut right through the turbulence and the jet engines and the air system, and her iPod earbuds. Well, it was the red eye. I suppose there was more than one passenger who had planned to sleep through the flight. I have been thumped for 6 hours on flights. A child kicks the back of my seat all the way to LAX, and I don't turn around. That's because mothers in coach are more fearful than mother grizzly bears. Me and a Marine, what are we going to do? Zach suggested at one point that it had more to do with what we were talking about than how loud we were being. I apologized to the woman and directed my basso-projecting mouth away from the back of her seat, and I soon saw her head nod into iTunes dreamland. She didn't complain a second time, so I assumed her Advil PM had kicked in, and she spent the flight safely dreaming within her well-defended borders. After we had talked for a while more, Zach noticed I knew a lot about the military. "You kind of know about this stuff, don't you?" he said. I said, "Well, I study it." Zach asked me if he should go to college. I asked if there was still a GI Bill. He said, "Hell yeah." And I said, "Hell yeah." I said, "Study whatever you want in college. Just make sure you pick a school with a good alumni network." We got off the plane. The woman in front of us had nothing more to offer. She seemed rested. Zach and I walked down the terminal, each toward awaiting parents. We broke formation with a handshake. As I walked toward the dual embraces of my mom and pop, I watched Zach meet up with his dad. They didn't hug, didn't shake hands, exchanged no words that I could hear. I thought, Dad must also be a devil dog.